Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mansplaining Mike, and the show will begin right after this great song by Gambler Huggins, God's Guts and Guns. Make sure to give him a follow on YouTube, guys. Let's get into it.
We got a left-wing communist infection. Wide open border with no protection. Main Street media cover-up connection. Lying to the people and stealing their election. If it weren't for the NRA, wouldn't even be a USA. It's God's guts and guns that keep America free. We need a not so subtle truth injection. When they call it revolution, call it insurrection. I'll give that one a big kiss, my ass rejection. Hell never has a test on lie detection. If it weren't for the NRA, there wouldn't even be a USA. It's God's guts and guns that keep America free. It's God's guts and guns that keep America free. Lay it all down on the line for truth and liberty. If old George was alive today, he'd be a member of the NRA. It's God's guts and guns that keep America free. They turned the DOJ into a weapon and pointed it straight at the opposition. They took all the patriots and threw them in jail. And take the thugs out of prison without any bail. If it weren't for the NRA, there wouldn't even be a USA. It's God's guts and guns to keep America free. We gotta stop right now and look and see what the left wing is doing to our country. And the only thing to stop them is just you and me. But are we the people guaranteed? From the Minutemen to the Marines and every fighting soldier in between. It's God's guts and guns that keep America free. It's God's guts and guns that made America free. Lay it all down on the line for truth and liberty. If old George was alive today, he'd be a member of the NRA. It's God's guts and guns that made America free. It's God's guts and guns that keep America free. We gotta stop giving money to countries that hate us. Flip the bird to the United Nations. We got blue collar over tax inflation frustration. And I'm giving all working men some reparation. If old George was alive today, he'd be a member of the NRA. Cause it's God's guts and guns to make America free. It's God's guts and guns that made America free. Hell yeah, hell yeah.
But I got that right, guys. It is God's guts and guns. That's what made America. That's what keeps us great. And that's what made us free. Anyway, guys, this show is going to be about a mixed bag of things. We're going to talk about different subjects. The first one we're going to talk about is Donald Trump's executive orders. We're going to take a look at what he says he's going to do on day one. And I take him seriously, guys. He's usually right about everything he says, and he usually follows through with everything he says. So let's see what Donald Trump had to say. So this is on Breitbart News, guys. We're just going to listen to it.
Donald Trump's Day 1 Executive Orders, Promises to Fulfill on January 20th. By Wendell Hussebo on December 26, 2024. President-elect Donald Trump will take office on January 20th and has pledged to sign a host of executive orders, EOs, on day one. Many of the EOs will reverse policies undertaken by the Biden administration, restore Trump's own past policies, and implement new policy goals. Stephen Miller, Trump's pick for White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, said deportations of illegal migrants will be the president-elect's first priority. President Trump, on day one, is going to issue a series of executive orders that seal the border shut and begin the largest deportation operation in American history, he told Fox News in December. Axios compiled the actions Trump said he would take, ranking the list based on mentions from Trump's 122 speeches, press conferences, and interviews delivered from January 1, 2023 to December 6, 2024. The list includes: settle the Russia-Ukraine war, close the border, cut federal funding for schools that teach CRT or who have a vaccine mandate. Breitbart News published a list of 10 executive orders that Trump could issue on his first day. Breitbart News' Joel Pollack recommended over 200 executive orders, actions, and policies that Trump should enact in his first 100 days. Democrats and their media allies will try to portray him as a lame duck who cannot run again and point to past challenges of passing his agenda through Congress even when Republicans controlled both chambers. Wendell Hussebo is a political reporter with Breitbart News and a former RNC war room analyst. He is the author of Politics of Slave Morality. Follow Wendell on X at Wendell Hussebo or on Truth Social at Wendell Hussebo.
Well, that's interesting. I hope that's what he does. I hope he gets rid of all these illegals out of our country on day one. That would be awesome, guys. And there's more news coming out about Israel. That's not surprising. There's always something negative coming out about Israel, because that's what they are, just a country full of negativity, guys. And like I've proven in the past, I think their state-ran religion, that thing is really like a cult, if you ask me, but that's just my opinion. I hope nobody gets too offended at that. If you do, I don't really care. I mean, look at my name. It's Mansplaining Mike. You think I care about your feelings? Anyway, guys, let's get into this and see what they're talking about. What Israel knew about and what they did after the October 7th attacks. It's saying that they changed their rules on killing civilians in Gaza. I mean, I think their rules were pretty much always the same. They were always murdering people over there, but let's see what the reports are.
IDF changed rules of engagement shortly after October 7th attack, report claims. Ynet. An investigation has revealed that the IDF dramatically changed its rules of engagement and restrictions on targeting civilians in Gaza immediately following Hamas terror attack on October 7, 2023, the New York Times reported on Thursday. The shift led to what has been described as one of the most intense bombing campaigns in modern warfare. According to the investigation, at exactly 1 p.m. on October 7, 2023, for the first time in the history of conflicts with Hamas, a senior IDF command issued an order granting mid-ranking officers extensive authorization to target thousands of locations in Gaza. These included lower-priority Hamas operatives who had not been high-value targets in previous operations. Under these orders, officers were allowed to approve strikes that could risk the lives of up to 20 civilians, significantly more than the restrictions that had previously been in place. Most strikes in past operations were only approved after officers determined there would be no civilian casualties. In some cases, up to 5 civilian casualties were permitted and rarely was the threshold raised to 10 or more. According to a senior IDF officer interviewed by the newspaper, the military changed its engagement rules because it believed Israel faced an existential threat during the initial hours of Hamas' surprise attack, which resulted in the massacre of 1,200 Israelis and the kidnapping of 250 others to Gaza. This was while terrorists were still present inside Israel. The senior officer said it was imperative to exert significant force to neutralize the threat, executing thousands of strikes in a short time. This necessitated decentralizing strike authorization, typically reserved for senior command. These critical hours were further complicated by the looming fear of a potential Hezbollah invasion from Lebanon, which required the IDF to divert considerable forces to that front. The investigation claimed that in its effort to dismantle Hamas capabilities in Gaza, Israel significantly weakened oversight mechanisms meant to prevent harm to civilians. It adopted flawed methods for identifying targets and assessing risk to innocents, ignored warnings from IDF officers and U.S. officials about deficiencies, and failed to conduct thorough post-strike investigations or punish wrongdoers. The paper noted that its findings were based on the review of dozens of military documents and interviews with over 100 soldiers and other sources, including over 25 individuals involved in strike approvals. The report said that in order to significantly expand the target pool in Gaza, part of the pledge to counter the attack on Israel and destroy Hamas, the number of Palestinian civilians who could be endangered in each strike was also increased. The outcome, according to the investigation, was the IDF dropping nearly 30,000 bombs and munitions on Gaza, more than the total used in the next 8 months combined. The investigation found that another order issued by IDF command at 10:50 p.m. on October 8 indicated the scale of civilian casualties deemed acceptable during those early days of the war. According to the order, strikes on military targets in Gaza could cumulatively risk the lives of up to 500 civilians daily. This limit was reportedly removed 2 days later, allowing officers to approve an unlimited number of strikes they deemed lawful. IDF sources told the outlet that the removed restriction was actually a precaution meant to limit the number of strikes per day. However, Professor Michael N. Schmidt of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point argued that mid-level officers might have interpreted it as a quota of permissible civilian deaths per day. Following the limit's removal, Hamas-controlled authorities in Gaza often reported daily death tolls exceeding 500, though it remains unclear how many were civilians, terrorists or casualties from previous days. The investigation highlighted Sheldon al-Najjar, a senior Palestinian Islamic Jihad (PIJ) terrorist, as an example. During Operation Protective Edge in 2014, the IDF reportedly took numerous precautions to keep civilians away from his house before attacking it. These included calls to neighbors warning of the impending strike and implementing the roof knock procedure, commonly used before targeting buildings suspected of containing weapons or tunnel entrances. As a result, everyone, including al-Najjar himself, evacuated with no casualties. However, when the IDF targeted a house he visited on October 10, 2023, no prior warnings were issued. The strike killed al-Najjar along with 20 of his extended family members, including children and a 2-month-old baby. In some cases targeting Hamas leaders, senior IDF officers approved strikes knowing they could endanger over 100 civilians each, actions the outlet described as crossing an extraordinary threshold for a modern Western military. The IDF reportedly conducted strikes at such a rapid pace that the pre-war target bank was depleted within days. As a result, the military adopted a new and unproven system for identifying targets, relying on artificial intelligence heavily. According to the report, a system called the Gospel was used to cross-reference information from various sources, including phone calls, satellite imagery and cellular tracking. The IDF also maintains extensive databases, one of which is known as Lavender, containing phone numbers and addresses of suspected terrorists. Israel's control over Gaza's communication networks allowed for the monitoring and tracking of Palestinian phones. However, 6 IDF officers told the outlet that these databases sometimes contained outdated information, increasing the risk of misidentifying civilians as terrorists. The investigation further alleged that the IDF frequently relied on a simplistic statistical model to assess risks to innocents during strikes. Sometimes targets were bombed just hours after being identified, allegedly increasing the likelihood of errors. The model mainly estimated risks based on cellular activity in broad areas near strike zones rather than detailed intelligence tracking of specific structures as was customary in previous Israeli operations. The IDF's air campaign was most intense during the initial weeks of the war. Palestinians claim that 15,000 people were killed in the first 2 months, a figure reported by Gaza's Hamas-controlled health ministry, which does not distinguish between civilians and terrorists and has faced skepticism over its data. Regardless, amid international outrage during that period, the IDF reportedly reduced its use of bombs from November 2023 onward to conserve munitions and tighten strike protocols, including having the number of civilians allowed to be endangered in low-priority strikes. Despite this, the death toll in Gaza continued to rise, with Palestinians claiming over 45,000 fatalities to date. The dramatic and extensive investigation comes as Israel faces allegations of genocide in Gaza, including a petition filed against it by South Africa in the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Israel firmly denies these accusations, stressing its compliance with international law and its efforts to minimize civilian harm, such as mass evacuation orders for entire cities, leaflets dropped from the air and warnings via social media. Israeli officials frequently highlight Hamas and other terror groups' use of civilians as human shields, embedding terrorists and weaponry in residential buildings and hospitals. According to the outlet, IDF officers must ensure that the risks posed by airstrikes are proportional to the military value of the target and take feasible precautions to protect innocent lives under international law. However, the investigation stressed that officers have considerable discretion because the rules of warfare are ambiguous regarding what constitutes a feasible precaution. The report, citing about a dozen sources who spoke to the New York Times, claimed that some IDF officers involved in the bombing campaign became far less stringent about adhering to military protocols after the shock of the October 7th massacre. While some commanders worked hard to maintain compliance, 5 senior officers reportedly described the mood in the military using the term harbu darbu, a Hebrew slang expression coined from the Arab harb wadar, battles and war. The outlet noted it received a 700-word response from the IDF and included excerpts of it alongside interviews with senior officials to understand the policies. The IDF confirmed that the rules for approving strikes changed after October 7 but stressed that its forces have consistently been employing means and methods that adhere to the law. Get the Ynet News app on your smartphone, Google Play, HT.
They're probably talking about the law that their Talmud allows, and that thing allows them to kill anybody indiscriminately who's not Jewish, so... I mean, you guys should pick it up, take a look at it. I have it on my Facebook page, Mansplaining Mike. You should check that out. I think you guys will be interested in what you find. It's definitely a pretty awful book. I mean, it's their religion. I always refer to it as their cult because that religion, it seems really evil. And I'll leave some links in the description box below where you can see where I talk about the Babylonian Talmud, which is at least one of their religious books. But it also, a lot of the videos I bring up also talks about the Mishnah Torah. And if you're a Catholic or any type of a Christian, I mean, here's the Pope. I usually don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I definitely agree with him on this. And he's not the only Catholic Pope who has said it. This has been said since Pope Pius X. People have always been saying that we shouldn't have anything to do with Israel and that the Catholic Church doesn't have anything to do with the Jewish state of Israel. So anyway, let's get into what the Pope had to say, guys. This is one of the only things, like I said, that I agree with him on. And this is something he said recently, so I want to give him some credit for that.
E con dolore penso a Gaza, a tanta crudeltà, ai bambini mitragliati, ai bombardamenti di scuole e ospedali. Quanta crudeltà! E ieri sono stati bombardati bambini. Questo è crudeltà, questo non è guerra. Voglio dirlo perché tocca al cuore. E con dolore.
But like I said, I don't agree with him on a lot of what he's been saying since he's been the Pope, but I definitely agree with him on that. I mean, that's awesome for him to come out and say that, hey, enough is enough. And it should be. Enough is enough. They say 1,100 people died on October the 7th. Most of them were killed by the IDF, though, so they're not really going to war with the people who killed those people on October the 7th. But they've been talking about that since October the 7th. I think they claimed that 1,100 people were killed. They've killed 60-something thousand by now, 45,000. I mean, that's a lot of people to die, just over 1,000. I mean, this whole chosen people one, we're going to take out 45 times the number for, like 45 people for every single person. I mean, that stuff is got to stop. That's supremacy type of behavior. Anyway, guys, let's keep going and see what else we can come across. Let's see what he said.
Vice President Harris says, I'm Joan Corey. I'm on the General Executive Board for the Teamsters. She goes, Teamsters? You better get on board. You better get on board. Better get on board soon. Excuse my French. Who does this lady think she is? So she comes to the round table. And her declaration on the way out was, I'm going to win with you or without you.
She thought that or said it out loud?
She said it out loud.
That's insane.
Well, she thought that. She definitely didn't win. I wish the people that were represented by the Teamsters got better representation sometimes. That's all I say. I'm not against unions. I'm just against the way that they've been running for the last, 20 years, At least 20 years. Probably 40. Probably longer than that. But I can only talk about the last 38. That's all I've been alive for. Anyway, guys, let's check this out. This is a educator who said she used to come out to her students every September, but she's not going to be able to do that because Trump is getting in and he's not going to put up with it. So she has to keep her identity to herself this year. What kind of person wants to talk to a child about sex? That's some weirdo stuff. Like, you want to come out to all the students and tell them what kind of sex you have in your free time at home? That's not their business. You're probably talking to 4th and 5th graders about what kind of sex you have at home. Keep that to yourself. That's not what the classroom is for. What happened to math, science, history, social studies, economics, math? Like, all of the things you need to know. Chromosomes. What happened to the X and Y chromosome? That's what they're supposed to be teaching. That should be all sex ed says is, hey, girls got 2 X chromosomes, boys have an X and a Y chromosome. That's sex ed. You don't need to know anything other than that. Go ask your parents about the stork or something. Anyway, check this out. Now they're talking about Luigi Mangioni's burgundy sweater sells out after his court appearance. Man, he's dressed like Mr. Rogers. Why would that sell out? And why are so many people praising his type of behavior? I just don't understand it. They act like he's some type of a folk hero or something. He's a murderer. He assassinated a man in the middle of the street. In cold-blooded murder. From what I heard, he waited out there in the cold for at least an hour before he even walked by so that he could kill him. This was a planned attack, an assassination, and people are applauding it. That's why there's so many killings going on. You want to know why there's so many school shootings? Because those shooters think they're going to be applauded when all our guns get taken away. We're not going to let that happen, though. You're not going to take our guns away. We're just going to figure out a way to put metal detectors in the schools, and that should have already been happening. I mean, isn't it all of these politicians' jobs to protect the Constitution and protect their constituents? They're not trying to do anything to protect their constituents. They got metal detectors in the Congress, but they don't got them in our schools. The high crime neighborhoods, they all got metal detectors in their schools. How come their kids feel good about going to school with metal detectors? So they feel protected when they go to school. They know they're not going to get shot up. No kid should have to worry about it. White, Black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, nobody should have to worry about getting shot in school. And the only reason people have to worry about it is because the government protects themselves and takes more consideration for their own safety than they do the children's. And that's not what they swear an oath to do. They swear an oath to protect the Constitution. The Second Amendment is part of that. So they got to protect the Second Amendment. And the only way to protect the Second Amendment and keep the kids safe is just put metal detectors in the school and have them bring in those clear backpacks. They'll be alright. You don't have to take everybody guns. That's just crazy. Anyway, guys, let's take a look at this compilation that was put together by Concerned Citizen on X. This is extremely funny, guys. Check it out. Give them a follow. So far, everything I've seen on there has been pretty good. So, check them out.
For their trust and confidence. I've got a lot of thanks to give out here. First and foremost to my perfect wife.
And these kids' parents are sitting there watching them do it. I would have knocked that man out. You're not about to sniff my kid like that and act like a pervert.
We met before. It's hard to forget those eyes.
Come on. Okay. Come on. Right over here. There we go. Okay. You can put it away if you want. I know what you said to my mom. That was wonderful. My mom loved it.
1 minute, Angel. Do you want to hold it? Here, lollipop. It's going to come in your mouth.
Got us all.
Just look at the camera, and then we're going to have lollipop. It's going to go in your mouth right after, like right after.
Keep going. You're standing right next to me. And then we're going to have...
There you go.
Got it? Okay.
And if you want the back, you can spread out a little bit.
Welcome to the front row.
You remember I told you?
No.
Man, you couldn't pay me enough money not to knock somebody out for grabbing a kid like that in front of me. There's not enough money in the world. There's not enough favors you can give me. Like, he would have been knocked out. No questions asked.
Not smile. No date till you're 30. Hey, Angel, how old are you? You're 12. What's your name? How are you? The problem is, you know, you guys, you got a hard time. You know what I mean? All right, sister. I like kids better than people.
Yeah. Can you get some over here?
Sure.
Okay.
Grandpa's one of those guys.
That's nice of you to
No, I'm not saying. He knows it. Do you know what
All those kids look terrified.
my dad used to say? His granddaughters have one important job.
Thank God he's not going to be there for long. Oh, I was wrong. He didn't make it. He shared it. That was from Breitbart. But, man, that is pretty crazy, guys. I mean, I don't know how he was able to get away with that. This is from Concerned Citizen again. This is Dr. Tedros of the World Health Organization. You can see what kind of a freak this guy is. And this is the guy we're supposed to be letting in charge of our medicine inside now. Man, I don't think I need this sexual deviant telling me what kind of medicine I need to put in my body. He's probably trying to sissify the rest of the world so that we'll think this type of behavior is normal. I'm not going to watch the rest of the video because I don't want to see a grown man acting like a prostitute woman. I mean, I got better things to do with my time. I'm sure you guys do too. I mean, I'd rather look at a woman act like a woman. And as you can see, Michael Obama right here definitely isn't a woman. And this is put out by Alpha Fox on X. You can give him a follow too. They can tell the sex by the collarbone right here. And Michelle Obama's collarbone looks like quite a manly collarbone if you ask me. I mean, you can see what Alpha Fox says right here. It says, notice anything about the collarbone? It's used to determine the sex of an individual in their skeletons. Males typically have straighter, thicker clavicles than females, who may have a more V-shaped collarbone. And as you can see, that one looks pretty manly. At least it looks manly to me. You guys can make that determination for yourself. I always thought this guy looked like a man. I think his face looks like a man if you look at it. I mean, there's not really anything too feminine about this guy. He's just dressed like a female. That don't make you a female. I don't care what these sick, crazy, twisted people say. And now we're going to take a look at some conspiracy news, I guess. And to me, what I notice about this is just real footage from CBS in the 1960s. And we're supposed to think that this is the moon landing. And that this guy is in outer space. I mean, I can look out my window right now, and I can see that this doesn't look much like outer space to me. I mean, it looks like a horrible green screen where they just turned the background black. And back then it was black and white, so black didn't look as dark as it does now in 1080p or 4K or any of that type of stuff. So, I mean, let's take a look at it and see if we think this is realistic.
Command link. Actually, it's a link along that tether line you see there, 25 feet of umbilical cord. That contains the life support.
You know what I noticed when you look at it? There's no stars in the background. He's in space. You can see stars looking out your window, but there's no stars in the background. It's just, well, I mean, it's a grayish because it was black and white. And back then, like I said, black didn't really have that depth that it does now. But I don't see one star in the sky, and it wouldn't be shadowed out. Like, you can go back and look at shows where you can see stars in the sky even back then.
System and communications link from the spacecraft life support system out through that chest pack.
And then it's like you can see little lights on the moon or something. Like, it just doesn't look quite right. Probably because, I mean, this wasn't 1080p or 4K. I mean, 1080p isn't as good as 4K, but this definitely wasn't 1080p. This more looks like some type of an ultrasound image or something. But you can see lights in the background there where it's even lighter. Like it's a lighter color. So you would have thought that back here, I'm just going to go back. I mean, we'll have to watch it again. But you would think that back here, you would be able to see the same lighting effect. I mean, you're seeing it on the moon. Why wouldn't you be able to see it? Or even if it's on this grayish material right here, which is supposed to be what they landed on. I really don't think that did much of traveling through space. It just doesn't look like anything that looks that great. They're saying that's an umbilical cord attached to an oxygen machine. I guess that's what they were calling that rope. Anyway, guys, let's get into it and see what other inconsistencies we can see other than, I mean, it just looks goofy and fake.
You see there 25 feet of umbilical cord. That contains the life support system and communications link from the spacecraft life support system out through that chest pack.
So you see, even with a lighter background, you can see changes in the color. So on that darker background, which would have been supposedly the black back there, which I don't really understand, because this looks a lot darker right here, like those tubes that are right there on the space shuttle. That looks pretty dark in comparison to what's supposed to be the background, like the sky or whatever, or outer space. You can't see the stars, but you can see darkness right there. You can see the light behind it. I mean, it's just not realistic that the black background would be like the most cloudy day in America. You know what I mean?
That radio command link.
I think it just restarted, but as you can see, there's no stars in the background like I was pointing out. I'm sorry that it repeated a bit, guys. I hope you enjoyed this show, though. I mean, it was just like a random show. I didn't have anything too much prepared. I guess that was my fault, or it could be it's just the holidays, guys. There's not much going on in the news right now that has any new information out. This was the freshest information I could find. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. This was Mansplaining Mike with the Mansplaining Mike Show. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with some sissy liberal who will cry about it for the next 4 years while Donald Trump does a great job of cleaning up America. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.